This is a demonstration on how to fly a DME arc. And of course, I know with the new X-Plane 11 FMC and the GPS that we have in X-Plane, you simply load up the approach, it draws you the arc on the display, and the autopilot just follows it. So you actually never have to do this manually. But I want to teach you the technique of how to fly a DME arc if you don't have it programmed, if you don't have it set up as part of a procedure, just by using raw data, VOR raw data, as you can see here on the HSI, green needles obviously, and just using the CDI here. And as you can see, I set up the GPS with the direct to the VOR, the same VOR I've tuned here to show on the HSI, and I'm using the GPS distance in lieu of the DME distance, which is perfectly fine according to the FAA instrument flight rules. So if you're flying according to what the FAA wants you to do, this is perfectly fine to do this. In Europe, under the EASA rules, you can actually not do this. You have to use the actual DME receiver. We'll come to that a bit later. And in Europe, you cannot substitute GPS distance yet. There's ruling underway, but as of now, you cannot do it. So I'm going to show you the American way here with the GPS distance, and we are going to lead the arc. I'm going to fly a 10 DME arc from the to the 250 radial. We're coming from the 340 radial, so a 90-degree turn, and I'm going to lead the turn to the 10 DME arc by 0.5 miles, so half a mile in, like right about now. I started the turn. Half a mile lead in is a good rule of thumb for anything that is slower than about 100 knots. So if you're flying a slow airplane like the 172 I'm flying right now, half a mile lead in is a good rule of thumb. And of course, if you're flying something faster, like a Boeing 737, then of course you need more lead in. Alright, as you can see here, the CDI is now centered on the 340 radial. Remember, the two from pointer points to where the station is. So what we do now is we twist 10 and turn 10. So twist the CDI by 10 degrees and turn the plane by 10 degrees. And of course we will watch for the DME distance as to what happens in the turn. Again, we wait for the CDI to center before turning the next 10 degrees, and all the while, of course, we have some wind component here. No, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. We have some wind component here, of course, that is going to change as we move around the arc. The wind correction angle that we're going to need will change, and that will influence how far we have to correct. So right now, of course, we are perfect 10 DME distance. Again, CDI centers, twist 10 and turn 10. So this twist 10, turn 10 technique, of course, works the same if you have not an HSI, but a regular course deviation indicator. A very neat trick to remember where to turn, especially if you are making the first 80-degree turn to intercept the arc, is to just follow the dots, the deviation dots, in the direction of the course deviation indicator. So follow the dots all the way up, and this is where your heading should be. Simple as that. Again, CDI centers, twist 10, and turn 10. So right now keeping the 10 DME distance is quite easy, because right now we have a headwind instead of a crosswind. And as we come around the arc further, you'll see the wind turns more into a crosswind for us, and we'll need to apply correction, of course, for that. CDI is centered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, and 10. So we are now at 9.9 DME distance, so we got into the arc by about 0.1 mile. And of course, the more we turn in, of course, the more the wind will blow us to the inside of the arc. So what we do now is we have to correct to the outside of the arc, obviously. And since we are in a left turning arc, that means we have to correct to the right. So what I'm going to do now is for the next twist and turn, I will not turn by 10 degrees, but I will only turn by 5 degrees. And that will keep our nose pointed out of the arc a little bit to correct for the wind pushing us to the inside of the arc. So this time, 1, 2, 3, twist 10. And for now, I will only turn 5. So, and again, if you visualize the situation, the VOR is somewhere over here. Again, the two from pointer points to where the station is. We are intercepting the 290 radial of the VOR at not at a 90-degree angle, at a 95-degree angle for now. And we're going to keep doing this in order to correct for the wind, obviously. And we need to do more of this since we are now in the arc by 0.2 miles. So again, I'm going to twist 10. And I'm only going to turn 5 if I can see the DME going up again. Here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're coming around to our to the distance we actually want again. And as soon as we are with 10 again, I'm going to give it another 5, and then we'll continue to keep the twist 10, turn 5, and see where that puts us with the DME distance that we want. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And CDI has centered, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and of course now the ground track pointer comes in handy. I'm going to turn by another 5 degrees now. Um, and of course the ground track pointer is really helpful, because if you put the ground track pointer along the track, the ground track we want to fly, right? Extend the dots to the outside of the compass rose. Then if we put the ground track pointer right there, that will allow us to stay precisely on the arc. Again, CDI centered, twist 10, and turn another 5 for now, and see where that puts us. So still 10 miles on the distance. That looks really good. And now, of course, as you can see, we almost have a direct crosswind. And again, you can see the crosswind is blowing us into the arc. So I'm going to stay on this this heading. 5 degree offset from the 90 degree for a while longer. And as you can see, I probably need a little bit more than 5 degrees of correction, because if you extend this here, you end up, yeah, roughly where the diamond is, but slightly to the right of it, maybe. And again, twist 10. So the further I'm coming around, the more crosswind component I get. Again, if I use the split option here, gives us a pretty good idea. So almost all of the 40 knots wind is now a crosswind component. So we are now approaching the 250 radial. Again, as I said, I wanted to exit the arc at the 240 radial. And then we're going to fly inside the arc to, let's say, 7 miles. And then I'm going to show you another technique how to fly a DME arc. That is actually a bit easier. So once this centers, I'm going to fly into the arc, get the DME distance down to 7, and then I'm going to fly the arc back in the other direction, so a right-hand arc. But this time I'm not going to be using the twist and turn technique, but rather I'm going to be using the RMI, the bearing pointer. Alright, so this is about to center. So let's fly to the station. And of course this is going to be very fast, because as you can see now the wind blows me towards the station. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up the bearing pointer right here that points, of course points directly towards the station. And of course you can see we have another DME indication down here, which is actually more useful for flying the DME arc. But again, with the G1000, this is not an actual DME. This is GPS derived distance to the tuned station. It is not actually the DME slant range. And again, perfectly fine to fly the DME arc like this in under FAA rules, but not under European rules. So half a mile lead in, and then I'm going to turn to heading 330, and we're going to fly a 7 DME arc the other direction. So the difference between the 10 DME arc and the 7 DME arc, of course, is while we are further in, things happen more quickly. Because we are closer to the station, things will happen more quickly. Alright, I'm going to bring no, this is not going to help. Ah, well, we'll ignore this one for now. And we're going to fly the 7 DME arc using the bearing pointer only. So right now what you see is, of course, the wind is blowing us into the arc, so I need to give it a little bit of wind correction here. And what I'm going to do now is I will track the arc using the RMI pointer only. So the RMI pointer points to the station. In a zero wind condition, I would try to keep the RMI pointer right here, and you will see towards the end of our arc that the RMI pointer will actually be here. But what I'm doing now is I'm keeping my wingtip in front of the station, because the wind is blowing me inside of the arc, and to correct for that, I'm keeping my wingtip in front of the station. So this is my wingtip, this is the station. I'm keeping the wingtip in front of the station. So this technique of just using the bearing pointer is super easy in a zero wind condition, because in a zero wind condition you just keep it dead right here, and everything will work perfectly. But of course, in a wind condition, if you're blown into the arc, keep the wingtip in front of the station. If the wind blows you out of the arc, keep the wingtip behind the station. That's all it is. And of course, as you can see, I'm making more turns in a more rapid succession, which is obvious because we are closer to the station. So now we have about equal crosswind and tailwind component. I've drifted out of the arc by about 0.2 miles, so let's try to keep the pointer now a little closer to the wingtip. And of course, this is natural. The more I come around the arc, the less crosswind component I get. So for now, we'll try to keep the wingtip on the pointer a little more. God, the roll axis of this autopilot is set up way too aggressively, it seems to me. This is kind of the opposite problem I had on the Diamond that I flew recently in real life. There the roll axis was set up, in my opinion, too loose, so with too little aggressiveness, and that also made it a little hard to fly. And with this one, I guess it's just too aggressive because you get too much of these oscillations. Alright, so as you can see here, only tailwind component, no more crosswind component. I'm right on the arc. I'm keeping the RMI pointer right on the wingtip. And now we are picking up a crosswind component in the other direction. So now is about time to begin pointing the RMI pointer in front of the wingtip, as we are picking up the crosswind component in the other direction now. And whoops, this is just my joystick being noisy. So yeah, for now I want to keep the RMI pointer just slightly ahead of the wingtip, not too much, as we've drifted inside the arc again a little bit. But then again, flying a 7 DME arc is harder than flying a 10 DME arc by hand. Again, the closer you are to the station, the tighter everything gets. So flying a 15 or 20 DME arc, not much work to do there, but try flying. If you want to give yourself a challenge, try flying a 5 DME arc with like a 15 knot wind. Try to fly that with the RMI pointer. Alright, I'm going to switch to, so we've come around to a 350 radial on this VOR. I'm going to give you the map view now, so we can see how well we did. Alright, that should give you the full screen of the map. I paused, and if we look at our look at the track of our map, you can see 10 DME arc around this VOR. Let me switch the so you can see it a little bit better. So here's the VOR. That was our 10 DME left arc, and that was our slightly off but still pretty good 7 DME right arc. So you can, that's how you can totally fly a DME arc, even if you didn't set it up in the GPS or FMS. You can totally fly it by hand, or using just the heading mode of the autopilot, either with the twist 10 turn 10 technique if you have no RMI. So this twist 10 turn 10 of course works perfectly if you have a steam gauge plane that doesn't even have an RMI. Or if you have an RMI or the bearing pointers, then of course it gets even easier if you just keep the bearing pointer on the wingtip and then correct for wind.